Hey, everybody, and welcome to a new episode in the industry series of No Slides Attached. I'm Helane Cohen alongside my co host and teammate Fede Pacheco. And our topic today is retail and consumer goods.
Yeah, that's another great topic to cover because many, if not all of us, are retail consumers, right? Like whether it's grocery shopping or the upcoming holiday shopping. Actually, Helene, have you done any holiday shopping yet?
You might know me pretty well, Fede. I kind of shop all year round for the holidays. So, yes, absolutely.
Well, we always ask our partners, especially in this industry series, what's different now that AI is around, right? Like what do they see in their industries? But actually, as retail and consumer good like consumers, I guess, we can also notice that. So I invite all of us, as the holidays get around and we see more advertising and we see more products on the shelves, let's see what we notice different. Like, are the products different? Are the way they're being delivered different? Or is the retail experience for us in the supermarket any better now? It's an interesting reflection to have. And as you might have just heard, when we talk about this industry at Microsoft, we cover both like the retail experience as a whole and the products we're purchasing there. But that's just like a very small overview. Let's actually introduce the partner that we have today because we're really excited. They have high accolades and they're the experts that we want to pick their brains on.
Absolutely. And I'm sure as we start to move into the next holiday season, which is just upon us, we're going to be super well informed after the conversation we have today. So, our guest partner today is Avanade. They are a global winner of Partner of the Year in the retail and consumer goods. Not only that, but believe it or not, this was their 19th recognition that includes the inaugural, the inaugural Co-Pilot Business Transformation Award as well. Needless to say, we're super excited to have them today. We're in for a treat with one of the best in the industry.
And joining us from New Jersey on the other side of the US where Helene and I are is Rob Wand. He is the Industry Director for Consumer Goods and Retail Industry at Avanade. Rob, welcome to No Slides Attached.
Thank you, Fede. Thank you, Helene. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, Rob, one of the questions we've been asking all of our guests these days is, what is one Copilot prompt that you can't live without with? It could be personal, it could be work related, just something that's really helpful to you.
Well, I use Gen AI prompts very often and frequently, so there is no single prompt, but I can say that it is par for the course. It really brings back the right responses quicker, more efficiently. So I'm constantly using Microsoft, Bing Copilot for searches. And then also from a Gen AI perspective, I leverage it for image generation as well. So it's very, very helpful. Like when you're putting together content or messaging, really helps to get what's in my head out into something illustrated because I'm not as good of an artist. So,
I personally started to use it now that we're talking about retail and shopping, like to make decisions on that front. So it'd be interesting if we could write like an article or something, giving shoppers some tips on how to leverage it, right? Because sometimes you just need a shopper advisor, so to speak. But before we get into the topic at hand, Robert, I would love you to tell us a little bit more about Avanade in general, your solutions, and especially those in the retail space.
Sure. So Avanade has solutions for retailers. First is data and AI and artificial intelligence. So we help clients ensure that their data is stable, that it's accessible, secure, and that they can leverage their data for insights and predictions. Also, we've got a lot of experience with, industry data models, specifically how the data is supposed to be structured for retail consumer goods. Avanade also helps clients with applications and infrastructure. So helping retailers build and modernize, they might have a custom application that needs to be modernized and manage environment servers. In a retail environment, they often have a very complex infrastructure, especially when you're involving the stores. So modernizing the workplace. So we help retailers empower their workers, whether in the headquarters or in the back office or in the front line with, very highly relevant insights and collaborating with team members and definitely a lot of automation. We're seeing more and more demand for automation. Um, Business applications. So we also help our clients with cloud intelligent applications, whether it's modernizing their financials or driving an intelligent supply chain or enabling channelless omni-channel commerce or personalization at the customer level. And then finally, strategic advisory. So we also help retailers and consumer goods companies identify, business value of transformation and how to roadmap, what should be transformed in order to optimize that balance between, effort and return on value, and then help our clients understand the competitive landscape and provide industry research. And we've been doing this for about 25 years. We're the Global SI Partner of the Year, as you mentioned, for many consecutive times.
19
I'm
out
sorry,
of the
did you have a
25.
question? Yeah. Yep. Definitely. And then just a couple other things. So that those are the different areas that we focus on. Avanade does have a unique relationship with Microsoft. So we get exclusive access to the AI roadmap. So all the pioneering solutions like Copilot and Fabric, we're actually working closely with and collaborating with Microsoft as well. So that's a bit about our organization and how we help clients.
That's awesome. I love how you talked about partnering with Microsoft to help bring those products to market. I think that's fantastic. So with the rise of generative AI in the past couple of years, you've obviously evolved your practice and thrived. We were just talking about your Copilot accelerator and how it's really helping store associates across the world. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So one of our Copilot accelerators, the one you're talking about, was designed to empower a store associate so that they can provide a more personalized experience for customers, right? Especially in the brick and mortar stores. And what the Copilot accelerator does is it provides the capability in an app of clienteling so that the store associate can understand everything about the customer, also everything about the customer, the products, and help them make what's the best buying decision. And when you help your customers buy the right products they'll be happy with, that's going to drive loyalty, right? They're going to come back again, and not to mention basket value. All of this while managing store operations tasks. So if you're a frontline worker in a store, not only are you, tending the customers, you also have to do things like count inventory or, do different various tasks in the store. So that's all in a centralized experience, and leveraging, AI throughout that process, right? Like insights on the customer and, predictions and recommendations, that kind of thing.
That's wonderful because it really shows the definition or an example of what empowering means, and all to the benefit of the customer. Like obviously the conversation that a person can receive thanks to AI, but also all the background work that may not be as exciting as having that customer conversation, but needs to happen for them to have a perfect storefront, for instance. So that is wonderful. The other thing that we really wanted to ask you about is the story about your retail ROI project, if I'm saying it correctly. So can you tell us about that and what has been the impact on that one?
Yeah, so we're very proud that we're very focused on our principles and integrity, and that we really are focused on our genuine human impact. And ROI stands for Retail Orphan Initiative, and basically the objective is it's a nonprofit organization. It was actually created by leaders in the retail industry and also getting supported by technology leaders like Microsoft. And basically, it's raising awareness for, there's lots of vulnerable children out there worldwide. So 400 million, 400 million children. And they have a Super Saturday event, which takes place prior to NRF, which is the, big national retail conference that's in New York every year. And we bring, retail leaderships, our clients, our leadership there to help talk and address the issue. We even built we helped them to develop a social worker cost turnover calculator, to help basically determine what's the financial and social impact of losing caseworkers. So, those caseworkers, those social workers that are really helping to take care of those children that are in difficult circumstances. And if you are going to, have turnover there or decide you're going to cut budget, you'll really start seeing what that financial impact is. And the app will also provide insights to what are the number of children affected by, you've got your short-term financial costs and then long-term. So although it might seem like a short-term, hey, let's reduce our costs by, laying off social workers, there's a longer-term financial impact. So definitely helping with the quantifiable, business human value, right? Of really doing the right things and thinking more long-term, for, really for holistically, for the world. So.
Yeah, gosh, you really can't put a price tag on that. I have a friend who's a social worker and does that kind of work, and it's super exciting to see, yeah, what this is going to be able to help with in that industry. So I'm going to segue. I mean, everything we're talking about, people, human value. One of the things we've talked to with all of our guests and what's top of mind for Microsoft is security. So can you tell us a little bit about how security has played within your business?
Yeah, especially in our industry, in retail and consumer goods industry, customers and loyalty are the retailer's most important asset. And if you think about how much data a customer has, retailer has tons of valuable data on their customers, and you have to protect that. A data breach in this industry will have a very huge impact on your brand and definitely your near-term sales, right? So, if there's a data breach and it goes public, customers are going to avoid shopping from your stores and shopping online for a while. And it also damages some of the brand loyalty. So security is definitely a must on, customer data and so forth. Another thing retailers need to contend with from a security perspective is protecting card payment data, right? So not just the customer personal data, but the, level of card payment fraud. There's also, it continues, PCI compliance is always top of mind. So basically, and those are, industry standards. PCI compliance is not anything new. However, they tend to, you have to adjust your security, right? The world changes, hackers change their strategies. And retailers, it's harder because think about, they've got that added challenge of managing security with, users with a high turnover volume, right? You're a retailer, majority of the workers in your store, the frontline workers, are either kind of not really long-term career or even just temporary hires. So they're not people that, you don't have that level of like trust and longevity with that employee. And then also lots of physical locations, right? So you're protecting data that, of course you need to protect it in the cloud, but you've got to have data that's physically in the stores. So security is really, really critical, especially for retail consumer goods.
Thank you for even going to giving us the specifics, right? Like why makes it so challenging and then therefore so important to address them. And again, just pointing to what we've been saying, we've all been retail shoppers with an urgency to, get off that line as soon as possible and go back home, check out whatever we're paying. But at the same time, we want that transaction to be safe. We want our data protected. We want everything to go right. And if we don't take care of those assets, then things could go wrong. So it could be related to security. It could be in general. But our next question is, what is a milestone that you've seen this industry achieve that you're really excited about, especially if it's something that you wouldn't have thought possible 2 years ago before the rise of generative AI?
Yeah, we're seeing AI being used in more and more business areas, and that's rapidly growing. So we're seeing AI being used in the supply chain to help improve the retailer's ability, for example, to forecast product sales. And also that helps the merchandisers buy the right levels, optimal levels of inventory. You buy too much, you're carrying too much, on your books. You're going to have to mark it down. You're going to, lose money on it. And then if you don't buy enough, you have a cost of lost sales, right? You didn't have it on the shelves. And by the way, not having enough on the shelves can also have an impact on loyalty. So AI is being used to help improve the supply chain. We're seeing AI helping retailers, especially to segment and understand their customers and provide better personalization. So really just leveraging that data from the customer. And it's interesting because another thing retailers contend with is customers engage with them across many different channels, right? So customer data, you might go on the retailer's website, you set up an account there. You walk into the store, you set up an account there. and other different channels you may interact with them. So your customer record could be, in 3, 4 different systems, and AI is used to help pull that together, right? To identify that, okay, this is the same customer, and now we understand what their behavior, shopping patterns are, and we can segment them and better predict. That's really huge, and they're leveraging that for personalization. AI also, we're seeing leverage in customer service, optimizing routing the customer's call or issue and resolving it faster. And then obviously for automating tasks like things like email communication, automatically writing emails, and merchandising descriptions is a big thing as well. It's
Oh, yeah.
a big start if you want to write your product description for your website. AI is definitely will help save time.
Yeah, I'm just listening to you thinking about I am that shopper. The first time I was like on an app, and then I was on their website, and a year ago, 6 months ago, they weren't tied together. I'd put something in my shopping basket in one, not the other. And now I'm seeing it is all consolidated. So that alone is like a big change, and it's happening so rapidly, including all the personalization. So we've talked a little bit about what we've seen. Is there anything, that hasn't happened yet, or do you have a sneak peek into something that, you think AI is going to help solve in the future for us in this particular space?
Yes, we're definitely going to see AI performing more tasks without human intervention. And then that's going to allow our workers to increase the capacity of what, and the value they can drive for the company. So right now, AI is doing a lot of things like predicting, but human intervention, forecasting, with human intervention. I think we're going to see more and more of higher trust in AI, more and more AI being, built within the framework of different business processes to take things that are common tasks, pretty basic, like the rules for making a decision are pretty standard, and just automatically doing that for the worker, so that workers are going to be focusing on more complex, impactful tasks. So as far as what, like your original question of what, hasn't been solved or in the future, I think we're just going to see it in all different areas. Retailers, in general, and consumer goods companies, they're already hungering for artificial intelligence. So they already know they need to find out what it can do for them. Many have already researched and started identifying what it can do for them, and you're just going to see more and more of that. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's only logical that for now you're like, okay, like if I need to order more or mark this down or whatever it is, I'll be, I'll call the shot ultimately, but eventually start seeing the ROI on that. I can like delegate to AI more because I trust it more. Our final question for you, Rob, is about advice. We'd love to pick your brain. If there's somebody listening here that have a great idea in retail, or they want to execute better in this sector, what would be your advice for them based on all the experience that you have?
Yeah, and I realize AI has been a big part of the conversation. The use cases for AI are virtually endless, right? I would recommend that you focus on understanding the capabilities of AI technology, get good on identifying how they can be applied to different areas of the business. The way that things rapidly change, I don't think, I'm sure someone might could be a good idea for a book someday. Like, here's a list of all the different AI use cases you can do. I think it's so rapidly changing that you're better off like not trying to find that, list or inventory of everything that's out there. Understand how it can be used, or at least what are the capabilities. Then look at the different areas of the business and the different business processes, and really start investigating, okay, what's being done that AI can do, maybe automate something that doesn't need to be done or can improve. Then I would say, once you proactively identify the business processes that are potential for driving value, right? So anything automation going to drive value, right? It's going to cost less. When you automate stuff, there's less mistakes, right? Us humans, we make mistakes sometimes. And then AI also can drive value of, predicting and optimizing things, whether it's, hey, this is the most efficient way to pick stuff out of our distribution center to load it on a truck. And then the final thing I would say, which is with all the excitement for AI, data is the foundation of AI. And you're going to find that we're finding it more and more. Clients get very excited. We want to use AI for this and that. And then you start doing more discovery and looking at the landscape, and you'd be surprised how many data points are not where they need to be, right? So prioritize modernizing your data platform and your data model. Especially if there's on-premise data, you need to get that to the cloud. It needs to be, accessible and high performance and in an Azure environment, for example. And especially with retailers, like we talked about before, with their complex infrastructure, they've got that data all over the place, and you'd be surprised how many of them like that. The data for what's being sold in that store is in the store. There's a server in the back of the in the back office of the store, and you've got thousands of stores. All that data is not necessarily as accessible. So I think that's really the key. Like, you've got to have that foundation, so do that, prioritize that first, because you're going to need it, right?
Totally.
Yeah. Well, Rob, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of this great information. This is definitely one of the industries that you can see things happening so rapidly. So we really appreciate your time. Again, congratulations on all of your awards, and keep up, that great work. We look forward to hearing more from you.
Thanks, Helane and Fede. Really nice speaking with you today.
And we are pleased now to have our retail influencer in the room, Ricardo Belmar. He's a leader in a space. He's an awesome teammate in our go-to-market team. But check this out. He's a top retail sales voice on LinkedIn. He's awarded a top 100 retail influencer. So officially he's an influencer. And he also has a podcast that is the Retail Racer Show. So if this is really your passion, of course, subscribe to this podcast, but also go search for the Retail Racer Show in your favorite podcast platform. Tune in and subscribe, because from Washington, D.C., Ricardo Belmar is the person you got to listen to. Welcome to No Slides Attached, Ricardo.
Thanks, Fede. It's really great to be here.
Wow, Ricardo, I didn't know all that. I learned something too. I'm going to have to follow you. So thanks for joining us today, Ricardo. What did you think of our conversation with Rob from Avanade?
Well, Rob's just amazing. I mean, Avanade has always been a fantastic partner in retail, partly, because of the breadth of what they do, how they support their customers. And you heard from Rob all the different areas that they engage with. Their solutions are always so well aligned to what we do at Microsoft, and specifically in retail. Of course, they're really active across all the various messaging areas and solution areas that we have that support retail customers. So it's always great to work with a partner like Avanade for this. And then, of course, there's the amazing support that Rob talked about for retail ROI. That's just such a fantastic way to really give back to the community that we're all happy to be engaged with. And I've been working with that organization for the last 12 to 14 years now. So it's great to see partners like Avanade support us there too.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I also agree. It was really exhaustive, and it just speaks to the breadth and the reason why they've achieved so many accolades through the year. They said we've been here for 25 years and 19 awards. So that's, pretty good number, right? A good ratio. So Ricardo, one thing that we really like to do in this part is to simplify how you view industry. However, in this one, like retail and consumer goods, we have like 2 buckets already. And within those buckets, we have sub buckets. And probably if our listener wants to, be fully covering all of them, they got to subscribe to your podcast. But for now, and based on the conversation and what we've been covering so far, I want to specifically go into retail first, and we'll go to consumer goods with Helane and give you pretty much the 4 sub buckets of how we see the opportunities in the space. And I'll let you choose one you're really excited about, or you heard a recent use case that has got you really excited. So I'm going to list you the 4, and I'll let you choose one. The first opportunity is transforming the shopper journey. The second is creating an agile and sustainable supply chain, which I know Rob mentioned multiple times. Third, and I know this one you're really passionate about, the empowering of the retail workforce for the future. And finally, another one that we already touched upon, it's unlocking the potential of your data. So which one is it, Ricardo, that you're going to talk to us about?
Well, I may be a little bit clever here in my answer, because I'm going to pick that last one that you mentioned on unlocking the potential of your data. And honestly, it's because if you think about it, at least for me, that's kind of the foundational one. But really, when you start with that and unlocking the potential of your data, it really powers the retailer to do all three of the other things that you just listed, whether it's empowering their workforce, whether it's creating that agile, sustainable supply chain, or just transforming the shopper journey overall. I like to say that retail is honestly two things today. It's a data and a people business. So it comes down to data and people, whether people represents all of us as consumers, or it's the people who are working in that retailer's frontline workforce. But it's all about how retail collects data today. And that's really been the most fundamental change, I think, in the industry, is how retailers use that data. And that's really where what we do and what our partners do, it comes into play and is so important. Because while it's about serving customers and having those customers buy products, I think operationally, every successful retailer has figured out how to manage and govern all the data they have so they can apply it to those areas like building a better shopper journey, having those more personalized experiences that most consumers always say they want. But there's always been a little bit of a disconnect in that while consumers say they want the personalized experience, they also don't think that most retailers are able to deliver it the way they want to receive it. And then you look at supply chain, right? Especially if we're trying to leverage AI, I think we've all said, and Rob, I think mentioned it as well, if you don't have that data foundational layer really locked in and solid, then you can't even rely on AI to help you get those efficiencies in your operations and your productivity. You can't improve your forecasting in the supply chain. You can't do all these things if the data isn't properly built and accessible. And even down to those frontline workers in the store. I think we've all had an experience as a consumer when you're in a store and you're shopping for something, you get someone to help you, right? And you have questions, right? You're trying to decide what to buy. And it's frustrating when they don't know the answer, right? And they can't give you the information you want. And most of the time, that's because the retailer hasn't effectively made that data available to those store employees so that they can in turn use it when they're working with you as the customer. So I feel like that data layer is probably the most important and the one that really is what is required to build on all of the other three.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm going to have to go shopping later. Pay attention to all of these things.
Yeah, think about it all as you go through the store, right?
So true. So true. Yes. All right. So let's do the same for consumer goods. I'll give you the 4 different buckets as Fede refers to them. And then we'll have you pick one. So on the consumer goods side, we having building brands that people love, designing and producing next generation products, again, creating an agile and sustainable supply chain. And then the 4th is optimizing channels and global routes to market.
Okay, well, it's going to be a similar story, I think, for me in consumer goods. And the titles and names are a little different, but if you think about how these things relate to data, I really emphasize that first one, the building brands people love, because I think if you think about this from that consumer's point of view again, right? We're all consumers. We all buy products. You always think about which brand am I buying from? Whether take an example at the grocery store and you're looking at 3 brands of mayonnaise on the shelf to choose from. How do you decide? You probably know one because you've had it before. Maybe the packaging draws your attention on another one. Maybe one of them is a private label from the store and it's significantly lower cost. All of those factors go into how you as a consumer make the choice. But from the brand's perspective, they have data around all of this. Whether we realize it or not as consumers, those brands, they have data from the retailer, they have data from ad campaigns that they've run. Whether you think about it at the time that you're standing there in front of the shelf, you might have seen commercials for 2 of those brands of mayonnaise that somehow stay in the back of your mind and they're influencing what you're deciding, right? That's why brands advertise. All these things that relate to that data, really fundamentally, it's what the brand does to get you to love the brand so much that you keep buying that brand versus any other. And it comes down to building that emotional connection between you and a product as a consumer. And if there's one thing that's true now, especially in recent years since the pandemic, brand loyalty is probably at an all-time low. It's super easy for any of us to switch brands anytime we want. Part of that means that for these consumer goods brands, they're looking at more and more data to help them decide how they're going to advertise, how do they need to change the products, how do they need to make the product accessible. As consumers, maybe you want to buy that product at the store, maybe you want to buy it direct from the brand. And sometimes you want to buy it direct from the brand because you assume that it's going to be a lower cost, or maybe it's more convenient for you to buy it that way. All of those things, the brands want to know. The consumer goods companies want to analyze that and use these data points in deciding things like, what's the product packaging going to be? What's the distribution going to be? How am I going to deliver this to a customer? And how am I going to build that brand loyalty and do it in such a way that you have that emotional bond with their brand so that you'll keep buying it and not get swayed away by an alternate brand. So I think it's because of those relationships that the brand wants to build. I think that's really a starting point out of the 4 buckets.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's always about that relationship. So critical.
You've spoken a lot about data, so I'm curious if you're going to bring it up in our next question, because I could see us talking about a full hour on that.
Yeah.
But we want to talk about challenges, right? You've seen projects go through and not go through in this industry. How do you think that AI can help overcome some of the biggest challenges that we have right now in the retail and consumer goods space?
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind there's an AI moment happening in retail for both retailers and consumer goods. And you're right, I'm going to bring up the data again because it does come down to how these organizations use the data. And AI has a big role to play here because one of the things that have challenged both the consumer goods brands and the retailers before is that they lack in their organizations the right expertise around the data science, right? How do I leverage this data? Because the data by itself doesn't tell the story. You have to be able to take action based on the data you have. You have to derive the right insights to learn about your customers, if it's customer data, or about the products in your supply chain. And that's not easy to do. It takes a lot of intensity to do that. And in the past, really only the largest organizations have been able to have the kind of staffing required and expertise to do that. And AI helps a lot here. Not because the AI is intended to replace the people, but because it makes all of those people that much better at doing this process. It's whether they're trying to forecast in their supply chain or they're trying to personalize a shopper journey. It just makes things go faster and it makes it a little bit more efficient. And it also can improve the quality of it. One of the things I mentioned before, right now, consumers want personalization, but they also feel that most retailers don't do it well. That's a key area that a lot of marketing roles in retailers are super interested in, leveraging AI to help them create marketing messages and campaigns that actually speak more clearly to their customer and their consumer based on their customers' preferences. They don't want to miss the mark on the marketing message because they know, again, back to that point I said about the brand loyalty being so low, they don't want to give you a reason to go elsewhere. And AI can really help keep them on point with that messaging and creating these campaigns faster and richer. And then there's also areas like in just product design. I've seen a lot of activity, particularly with apparel and fashion brands, for example, where just the time to market can be done so much faster. Where it used to take them weeks to come up with a product variation, with the help of AI, they literally can get weeks down to hours in that production process. So they know what to produce, how much, when to make it available with much more accuracy than they used to. And those are just a handful of benefits. Maybe the last one that I'll mention, because it's another important trend in retail, are retail media networks, where we're all used to seeing advertising on TV, but now advertising is moving into just about everywhere we go. You can be at stores that have their own media network in the store. This all came from e-commerce sites where we used to see product placement ads when you do a product search on a website, for example. Well, that's moving into other areas now outside that digital realm and into stores. There are banks that are doing this as well in their branches. It's happening everywhere. And those media networks are also benefiting from AI, because I think all of these brands recognize that as consumers, probably the last thing we want is to be bombarded with even more advertising than we already experience. At some point, we all reach that limit, right, where I can't stand to see another ad. And everybody knows that, but that just says that the effectiveness of each ad is more important, because you don't want to overwhelm your customer. You want to make sure that it's both personalized to something that's relevant to them, and that it's also delivering the right message for your products. And as a retailer, they're implementing these networks for all the brands that have products in their stores now and on their e-commerce sites. So those ad units are becoming super important now, and using AI to really get more efficiency and ROI out of that ad spend is as important for the brands as it is for the retailers.
Yeah, and It's so valuable what you've said about time to execution and efficiency, especially like from our conversation with Rob when he was saying like, we paint the picture of excitement, and at Microsoft we got the dream demos and all those cool, dashboards that we can show in the power of data, and then we go down to like what the customer actually has, and we're a long ways from there. So even though we might need to do some work to get there, not only do we have exciting products like Microsoft Fabric, but like, for instance, in our 5th episode of No Sides Attached, we talked to Lantern and what they did with avocados for Mexico. That's actually a consumer goods example, and how they brought down the time of reporting and democratized data. We just announced that you can use Python and Excel without knowing how to use Python originally. So, while the initial upfront part might be a little more tedious than you were expecting, and you were just wanting to run towards like already having that dashboard ready, well, the later parts of implementation are really not only faster, but also get you to a place where you had never been before. So, you got me. We were talking about challenges, and you got us all excited here because, there's some reasons for optimism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So before we let you go today, for those partners that are listening in on this, podcast and either already have, a practice for retail or thinking about, entering into this practice, what is some advice that you would give them to further explore AI in this, in this particular space?
Well, I would definitely start with leveraging and taking advantage of all the resources that we have online, whether it's through Partner Center, the Partner Marketing Center, all those resources that partners have available to them. There's a lot of great material there, ranging from just informational material about the different Microsoft solutions, but also some pre-built campaigns that you can leverage and launch yourselves are also available there for things like what we're doing in Microsoft Cloud for Retail that are being enhanced every day with more AI capabilities. So I would definitely start with that. And then, I mentioned the Cloud for Retail. Just on the Cloud for Retail website itself, you can find lots of information about what we're delivering for customers, and then that can spark some thoughts for you and how you can apply that to your own solutions and services as well.
Thank you so much, Ricardo. It's been awesome to have you.
Well, thanks for having me.
For our listener, stay tuned, subscribe. We have more industries to cover, and we'd love your feedback. So if you're on YouTube, leave us a comment. And if you are not on YouTube, you can always go to our LinkedIn, join our community, and add your hashtag No Slides Attached and tell us anything, whether you liked or would like to see in No Slides Attached. We hope today's conversations have ignited fresh perspectives and inspired you to take new opportunities in this changing landscape of AI.
Stay tuned for more insights and stories on No Slides Attached. Be sure to listen in and follow us at noslidesAttached.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.